Insulting the narcissist. Tempting, isn't it? Naturally, you wouldn't want to insult me, your magnificent ultra, who is providing you with all of this delicious information. But many of my brethren do deserve the insults. Yes, there are many of them who are successful. Some who are slimy successful. Others who are out-and-out losers, cowards, snivelling, pathetic individuals. Unkept, malodorous scumbags. There's a wide range. And if you'd like to take the safe option of hearing how all of these various different schools of narcissists can be insulted, treat yourself to the H.G. Moll series. You'll find it in the Knowledge Vault. But that aside, why would you want to insult the narcissist? Why not, I hear you answer. Well, tempting as it is, and whilst you may think that it is justified and appropriate, it would be a breach of no contact, and actually works against you. Here's why. First of all, when you insult the narcissist, you don't wound us. You're giving us challenge fuel. Your anger, your contempt, your irritation, your annoyance, even your hurt are all fuel. We want that. Thank you very much. You've just given us something we want. 1-0 to the narcissist. Ah, you say, why then has he gone apeshit with me? Why is he getting all worked up? Why is he shouting and screaming? Well, that's because you've challenged the narcissist's control. So you're bearing in on goal with the possibility of scoring an equaliser. But of course, you're never going to be allowed to do so. Why? Because we have to assert control over you. And we will do so through one of the 3 assertions of control. Therefore, denying you that equaliser, or you might even get it into the back of the net, and the VAR system rules it out. No equaliser for you. So your insult gives us fuel. Yes, it will challenge us, but we will, and we always will, manage to assert control over you, from our perspective understand, appertaining to the use of the 3 assertions of control. But it doesn't end there. As part of asserting control over you, our narcissism may select the direct assertion of control. So in some instances, your insult results to you getting punched in the face, not very pleasant for you, or slapped, or shoved. Or it might cause us to go and smear you elsewhere, and smear you hard. It might cause us to launch into a savage verbal tirade which upsets you. And therefore, not only have you given us fuel, but you have also suffered an adverse consequence. You're upset. You continue to be angry. You're worried, possibly even frightened. And what started off as a good idea by throwing an insult in our direction has that adverse consequence. Some of you may say, well, actually, I wasn't scared. I'm not scared, and they're not going to hurt and anger me. In fact, I find it funny that he gets so worked up. Well, fair enough. You haven't then suffered an adverse consequence. All that's happened, though, is you're being conned by your emotional thinking. It makes you feel gleeful about what you're doing to the narcissist for one reason only, to keep you doing it. You think, goody gumdrops. I've given him a tongue lashing. Look at him. He hates it. And of course, the narcissist does, because you're threatening our control. And therefore you think, I'll do it some more, and more, and more. Time for justice. And your empathic trait of justice is being corrupted as you mete out this behaviour towards the narcissist. And the increased emotional thinking causes you to feel happy, gleeful, satisfied at what you're achieving. And whilst that feeling is real, it's misleading you because it's going to make you carry on doing it. And then this leads to the third problem. You're increasing your emotional thinking, but you probably can't see it. Your emotional thinking will already be high as a consequence of your ongoing interactions with the narcissist. Add in this continuing throwing of insults, whether it's in person, down a telephone line, social media message, or text messaging. You are interacting with us. You're entering one of the arenas of interaction, which means your emotional thinking will increase. You are feeding the addiction, and your addiction wants you to keep doing it. So it keeps making you insult us. And so what do you keep doing? Giving us fuel, which is what we want. running the risk of an adverse consequence, which may or may not happen, and you're increasing your emotional thinking. You're also causing the possibility of further hoovers to come your way. All of these things are not appropriate. But when your emotional thinking is high, you end up thinking, this is fine, I'm landing the blows, but you're not understanding, because you're not applying logic, that is actually working against you. You see the narcissist turning purple with rage, steam, metaphorically, coming out of his ears, crying, whinging at how mean you are. And it feels good for once to get your own back on the narcissist. Of course it does. But you're falling into a trap. You're still giving the narcissist what we want. We will ultimately assert control over you. And you're feeding your addiction and increasing your emotional thinking, which is keeping you trapped in the interaction with us. For many people, it's fuel, adverse consequence, and heightened emotional thinking, a triple whammy of problems for you. But for some of you, you might not find the experience one which is frightening, upsetting, angering, irritating, or hurtful, and you're enjoying it. But believe it, you're being conned. You're being conned into giving us fuel. You will ultimately have control asserted over you by one of the three methods of the assertion of control, and you'll increase your emotional thinking. And when you increase your emotional thinking, you don't think logically, and you might take it too far with alternative repercussions. Or it causes you to think of other ways of maintaining some kind of campaign against us. And what are you doing? You're wasting your time on us. You're giving us time and energy and effort. And I don't care if you're saying, well, it was worth it. It isn't. You're being conned into thinking that it is worth it. What you must do is go no contact. Because ultimately, you aren't going to cause us a problem. You're giving us fuel. Thank you. We will assert control over you. And if you want to know how that happens, you will either experience it because it's done directly against you, or you'll get smeared, or we'll withdraw from you. And thirdly, you will increase your emotional thinking, leading you to continue to try and interact with us some way, and therefore you are remaining engaged with us, and you won't move forward. You won't progress. You won't get this out of your system. You won't detox, as some people say. There's also a further risk. If you are continuing to interact with us, even though you don't want to be in the relationship with us anymore, you're keeping your emotional thinking higher than it should be, meaning you're at risk of being ensnared by a fresh narcissist because your emotional thinking won't allow you to see the red flags with that individual. So whilst it all sounds like shits and giggles to insult the narcissist, the most effective way of insulting the narcissist is to impose a no-contact regime and not get down into wrestling with the mud. Because as you know, there's no point wrestling with a pig. You both get dirty, but the pig enjoys it. And that's essentially true for the narcissist, although I would say I'm very clean and my mud is delicious creed fragrance, but we'll leave that to one side. Ultimately, what you must understand that whilst it's tempting and understandable, and you're being driven by flawed logic telling you, insult the narcissist, land a blow on him or her, go on, it's time for you to give them a few home truths. There's ultimately no point, and it takes willpower on your part to resist that urge to do it, that nagging itch. The best thing you can do is impose no contact and avoid the problems that hurling that insult will cause. If you don't accept this at this juncture, please understand this is your emotional thinking now, not wanting you to listen to the logic of what I'm telling you. Believe me, I've explained this many times in consultation to people, and they have gone against the advice, only to return later to say, HG, you were right. It caused me further problems, and I now see that because my emotional thinking has now come down. I see the logic of it. Heed these words. Don't go around insulting the narcissist. It will only come back and bite you on the bottom in some form. Impose your no-contact regime instead. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.